It's a beautiful Monday afternoon. We are here once again to take a look at issues as they emanate from this beautiful continent of ours, Africa. The program, Africa Discourse, and I am Wilson Marshall. Today, it is all about the just concluded Ticad meeting. Yes, the 7th to be precise. When a group of persons leave a shore to another shore to have a meeting, it has various names. But when African leaders choose to go outside of Africa, to go to Japan for a common goal, that means something just might be cooking. But what has been cooked? Many do not know. Who stands to gain? Who stands to lose? Of whose benefit is the Ticad meeting? Now, these are the questions emanating from different quarters. Our beloved President Muhammadu Buhari went to Japan, Yokohama to be precise, for the meeting, and various issues were raised. This isn't the first time Ticad meeting took place. 7th time. The money earmarked, has it affected us as a continent positively? What about the various leaders, countries that went on to that meeting or for the meeting? How has it reflected in the economy? And now we've gone back again to Japan. They are the hosts, and they were calling us. And we are back again. Would there be any difference? With me here in the studio to do analysis on this talk, I have a clergyman, a political analyst, a human rights activist. When you talk about local and international politics, is well grounded. Join me to welcome Reverend Humphrey Arega. Reverend, welcome to the show, sir.
My pleasure.
I appreciate you coming.
All right. Everyone.
And sitting very close to him is a vibrant youth. When you talk about analysis on topical issues, he is well grounded, both local and international. Join me to welcome Alex Obi. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'm still expecting the likes of a barrister Chima Williams. If he comes, he joins in the floor. Now, Ticad has come and gone. Questions have been asked. Monies were marked for African leaders to leave the shores of Africa to go to Yokohama City, Japan. Of which when they got to that place, the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was with the G7, and questions are being asked at this meeting. Why was it called for in the first instance? Who are to benefit from this? Is it because of the importance of Africa and the globe? Hence, everyone is trying to grab the part they can from this continent. Reverend, let me start off from you. How do you feel about this?
Well, I don't want to use the word disappointed, because most of the issues surrounding Africa in relation to other nations have become rather like a jamboree, a time when African leaders leave their homes and just ease off the tension within their region and get to see themselves discussing nothing and coming home with nothing. One will be a little bit surprised, because I keep saying, when you're talking of negotiation, you have to have what it takes to negotiate. The situation around Africa, especially with Nigeria inclusive, is not something that you are proud about to display. One of the things that every investor wants is the environment that can be conducive for them to invest their hard-earned resources, and the profitability of that engagement. What is happening right now is that there is a scramble for Africa, a second scramble for Africa, this time by the Asian tigers, China and Japan. I see, and unfortunately, the African leaders seems to be like a pawn in the chess game that can be moved by whoever wants to move them. And that's a sad story, it's a sad commentary. One would have expected that as leaders of nations, you have to look at how invitations are served. Why will you put the Ticad meeting with G7? To the average European, to the average Asian, most beneficial is the G7, because there you have to talk about equal thoughts and equal economy. For the Ticad, it is servant-master relationship. So when I need you, I just call you and talk with you and tell you what I want to do. But let us also not forget that there is a difference between MOU and actual contractual agreements.
All right. The difference between MOU and actual contractual agreement. And of course, talked about a talk of equal minds or equal might and master-servers relationship. I'll come back to you. And just join us right now in the studio is Barrister Chima Williams. Do I've already introduced him. You get to hear his own thoughts and view about the Ticad meeting. Barrister, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Wilson.
All right.
Apologies to the audience.
Alex, you heard the firm opening given by Reverend Humphrey Arega. He chose to use the word, I wouldn't want to say I'm disappointed. That was how he really started his own side of the story. Do you share the same views with him about the Ticad meeting, the 7th that's been concluded?
Thank you very much. Not necessarily. At the risk of holding brief for the APC government being led by President Muhammadu Buhari, if you go down into history and check the history of the Ticad Forum, which is the Tokyo International Conference for African Development, it's one that did not start yesterday. It's since 1983. It's probably over 25 years. And it's one that is based on mutual benefit for both nations. You know, it used to be a conference with 5 years interval. We meet every 5 years, but the last conference was held in Nairobi, and after then it was shortened to a 3 years interval. So it's not like Japan is going to be hosting it consistently. It's going to shuttle between Africa and Japan. Do we need help in the country? Yes, we do. I also want to clarify the G8 or the G7 or like G8 conference clashing with. I think what happened was that the government went a little bit early, maybe because of the distance of Japan and all that. So they went days before the actual conference started. That's why, you know, it would appear that the Prime Minister Shinzo Abe wasn't around as at when Buhari had arrived at the conference. So the conference seek to, you know, how they can rally together and seek mutual benefits for each other. So it's not necessarily a jamboree. If you look at Femi Adesina's Count Your Blessings article, you will see that there were at least some, you know, little gains. They might not have been very massive, but, you know, they were pointing in the right direction. You had the 50 million euro that was given to the Northeast to help with the massive humanitarian crisis there. There was also the $300,000 given to the Nigerian Defense College that came as a result of the conference. There was also an opportunity for the President of Nigeria to meet with the President of South Africa. Of course, we're all aware of the current xenophobia crisis. So in that sense, you would say it's a clear case of two stones killing a bird. So it wasn't all, but I think my problem with that was the content of the delegation. Because the theme of the conference was how to improve it was talking about human capital, developing, you know, they were focusing more on human capital development through innovation, technology, and, you know, upgrading the people. So one would have expected that the delegation that would come out of Nigeria would not be filled up with politicians, governors, you know, to be filled up with young, enterprising businessmen, the future of the Nigerian economy.
Okay, I will come back to you. You're saying that it's not necessarily a jamboree. Yes, we need help, but you have a knack with the caliber of personality in the train of Mr. President. I'll come back to you on that. Barrister Chima Williams, you've heard both of them. They've spoken at length about the just concluded 7th Ticad meeting. What are your opinions and your views on it?
Well, you see, a country that is in search of help, you know, can always meet with anybody. First and foremost, there is no problem in nations meeting, dialoguing, talking about development and the rest of them. But I get worried when Africa, as a continent, begins to be regarded as a nation.
A continent begins to be regarded as a nation. All right.
To deliberate with other countries. Okay? We have Ticad. We have the Chinese African Forum. We have I mean, you just name it. You know, when will Africa begin to discuss with Asia as continent per continent? You know, bringing all the resources in Asia to discuss on Africa, you know, synergy. And this is talking about African development. I mean, my brothers, there is nobody that can think of African development better than Africans. Okay? Yes, whatever, of course, there is no discussion, there is no parley that you will not get some kind of gains. But the gains become suspicious when a whole continent, you know, goes, you know, hand in cap to meet with a nation from another continent. So what brings us? Africa. So we must look at it from that perspective. I am not going to look at it from whether Nigeria gains anything or not. But on the parity of nations, you know, we call ourselves the giants of Africa. So when will Nigeria begin to convene an Abuja Africa or Abuja Asia Development, you know, conference? Because we have potentials, we have resources, we have both human capital resources that we can export to other nations. You check it globally, there is no nation that is making it that we will not find a Nigerian playing a vital role. So why can't we think internally how to propel our own country, that we are not always at the receiving end, but we will at a point begin to, even if it is minimally, show the world that we have something to offer. We cannot be all receiving at all times. With all the enormous resources that we have, population-wise, natural resource-wise, intellectual and intelligent-wise, you know, Nigeria can compete with any other big player in the global scene if we get our acts right. So, rather than thinking of, you know, my brother talked about 300 million support, you know, this and that. I mean, why can we always not think of, now, there is no Father Christmas anywhere. When Japan is discussing with Africa on African development, what is Japan's interest in Africa? Have we pondered that question? What will Japan gain from this type of conference?
All right.
Is it just to benefit Africa? They don't have anything to gain?
All right.
That's not Father Christmas, my brother.
Okay, I will come back to it. It's like all of you seated here, you have knack with this Ticad meeting. While Alex was giving his own analysis, and of course Barrister Chima also followed suit. Reverend, it's like you have so much to say. You can let it out now, because Alex talked about the grant, so to speak, the MOU and all that. That is what we really need as a country to at least forge ahead. Talked about the Northeast, but is not so happy with the contingent of Mr. President.
You see, that's why I use the phrase jamboree. You see, when you don't have a technical know-how of discussing issues, you are merely speaking English without foundation. How many persons in the entourage have knowledge of Japanese language in that entourage to decipher the thoughts of the Japanese man in discussing with you? The reason why our agreements fail is that we don't have understanding. They just give us things, we are happy with the nation money. And you have to ask us, this is the 7th in the series. Look back to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is the gain? How far have we gone with 6 meetings? So it's not just for me. It becomes a time of people letting out their own frustration, where they are, they have nothing to do. But I'm also saying, just like my brother said, when somebody gives you, no nation, America, Britain, Japan, China, we give you money without first of all calculating how much interest it's going to get. And that's why you see, especially now that there is an Asian penetration into Africa, they are going for the mineral resources. They use the mineral resources as a guarantee for whatever loan they are going to give to you. And they know you can't pay back. It's already happening in African countries where Chinese is taking over their mineral resources deposits because they can't pay back the loan. So it is good. No nation lives in isolation. No nation can develop on its own. But when you are developing yourself, when you are going to take something, sit down and calculate the risk, the profit, and all that is involved. Like my other brother said, you are carrying governors to a place. How many of those governors have technocrats? You have Japan, Nigeria Chamber of Commerce. Which of the officers of that environment went for the program? So when you're going to discuss with the nation, you already have avenues to discuss. You have the China, Nigeria Chamber of Commerce, or Asian, Africa. So we are discussing with different nations. Go and look at what Ghana got compared to what Nigeria got. So we have to look at ourselves. And I still believe that then I'm talking of intellectual development. Good. We need to develop ourselves. How did China develop its intellectual capacity? They sent their nationals to the US to study. Nobody gives you, you don't transfer knowledge. You need to acquire it. So Nigerians need to have, we don't even need anybody now to tell us that we should bring our people for training. We already have too many trained Nigerians abroad who can come back and invest in it. But the environment is not there. A nation is going to ask for foreign aid, yet Nigeria is insecure. Who is going to come? That's the point. So you need to do your homework first. And that's why, because the Japanese people have been giving you some money for it, they are not telling you no, want to develop your mind. Because whatever money they have given, they can't see the gain. Look at the Chinese railway we have been talking about. How many years did it take them to build the Kenya railway? How many? How many years is it taking Nigeria to build it? How much is it taking? I was listening to one podcast the other day from one Lagos commissioner that was talking about the railway, the light rail. How many years it took and how much it took to build the one that is longer and better than the one of Nigeria. I think we are still building it for how many years? Since 1999. It's not finished. So we can't be deceiving ourselves, as far as I'm concerned. African leaders, especially Nigerians, we have deceived ourselves for too long, believing that when we go and say we are going for, you look at the governor, they tell you they are going for a conference to go and acquire investment. How many of those investments have we seen in this country? Like I said, you can sign an MOU. An MOU is a paper. It's just an initial take-up to say, okay, let us now be discussing. How do we discuss?
All right.
And when you're going to discuss, you can't let politicians who have no knowledge of what you're talking about without the technical experts or the language expert. Language is important. What you read is maybe different from the meaning it has. So you need a man who has understanding of the language to tell you what the meaning of that paper is.
All right, thank you so much, Reverend. The impact of the 7th Ticad meeting, whose benefit is a huge question we are asking this afternoon on Africa Discourse, and I believe I've been listening to my analysts have been pouring out their heart on the just concluded Ticad meeting, the seventh edition, so to speak. Mind you, after the show, maybe you just bump into this program or you came in late, you can log out to our YouTube channel. You're going to see this discourse in the YouTube channel at youtube.com/ITV Radio NG. Yes, you're going to see there. And of course, you can follow us on our Twitter handle at ITV Radio NG, or follow me on my personal Twitter handle at Marshall Wilson, #Africa Discourse. We get interacting, we get discussing. We want to go for a break. When we return, I'm going to throw a question at Alex. Let's see how he's going to react to it. It's all about the Ticad meeting. We'll be right back. Indeed. This is Africa Discourse. If you just join us, we're taking a look at the impact of the 7th Ticad meeting. Whose benefit? Questions upon questions. Now, Alex, you talked about the money given to us by Japan because this is the 7th edition. And of course, Reverend raised a salient point. The monies have been given to us. How has it impacted on us as a continent, even the unit countries? You talked about what was given to Ghana in comparison to what was given to Nigeria. And now they're talking about developing our mind. Is there anything wrong with us?
Okay, first and foremost, I would like to just correct some certain impressions. The money, you know, the forum, it's a collection of various interests. Japan is just one of the hosts. There are other co-hosts, like the World Bank, the United Nations Developmental Program, and the African Union Commission. The money that was given to the Northeast was from the European Union. You know, so because the forum provides...
But this is not the first time we're giving money.
No. And that's why the theme of this forum, and that's why you see the Japanese government have moved from just granting aid to Africa to actual development, capacity building, you know, and, you know, through innovation, through education, through technology. I also want to, you know, someone said something about why dealing with the whole Africa, you know, and why regarding African as one nation. First and foremost, it's easier for them. You know, it's easier for them. Secondly, we are talking about the third largest economy. Japan is the third largest economy. In fact, Japan was the second largest economy for so many years, and it was overtaken by China in, you know, recent years. So it's one of those giant, we call them the Asian tigers, one of those highly developed, you know, economy. Again, we have a lot to learn from Japan, you know, so this kind of experiences is good for government officials and also businessmen. Japan, after the Second World War, was thoroughly devastated. Japan has no known natural resources. Yes. And yet, Japan has been able to achieve to this very level that they have gotten to. And so, there's so much to learn. And of course, one of the lessons I can pick up from there is that developing a nation is not entirely based on the resources that the nation has, but on capacity building, technology, innovation, investment, especially in education, you know, reorientation of the people's mind. So I personally think that if we key into the goals of this forum, Africa has a lot to benefit. And you know one thing about this, Japan keep emphasizing on quality infrastructure, and I like their approach as against China. You know, what the Chinese does is, you know, there's a lot of free loans in such a way that most countries are now more like in a debt trap. You know, or when they have their this transfer of their technology or this thorough infrastructure development in Africa, there is massive movement of Chinese technicians, sometimes to the detriment of the development of those third world countries. So the approach of Japan in this particular Ticad conference, if Africa can key into it, I think it's going to be of immense benefits.
All right. If Africa key into it, and this is the 7th edition, and here we are with another Ticad. Brother Chima, give expression to your laughter, please, because you're like, you know, when you use the word "if we key into it," you giggled. Is that really enough for you to giggle, in the sense that Africans really ought to key into it, but are they doing it?
Yeah, you see, listen, they say if you want to deceive somebody, put it in big grammar. You know, and for Africans, if you want to hide anything from them, put it in book form. Now, the theme of this year's Ticad, reorientation, development, whatever. And the question is, who are the people to be reoriented? The politicians that have gone to meet for how many days? Is it President Muhammadu Buhari that will be reoriented in Japan, or the governors or the ministers, those that work with them. You see, the point here is this, as I said it earlier, nobody is again, because there's no country that is an island of its own that can be self-sufficient without needing the support of others. But the problem remains, what is the approach? What are you going to transfer? What are you going to give to the people? This thing started from 1993, Ticad, 5 years interval, until in 2013, it was shortened, and the first time that it was held in an African soil in Kenya was in 2016. Okay? After more than 20 years. So, the question, if we key into what? That is the question. If we key into what? Now, like the Chinese, did to overtake the world. I don't need a Japanese to tell me that, look, I have to acquire technology to develop my own country. Except if he's telling me that, look, this is the technology we have, and we are ready to train you on it. So discussing it and thinking that that will transform anybody, you're wasting your time. Students of international studies that have studied the AIDS issue have come to say it clearly that there is nothing like AIDS. Whatever comes as AIDS comes with conditionalities for assessing that AIDS. And at the end of the day, it's just transporting, debt to the next generation. Okay? Why even the present generation that is collecting the loan or collecting the facility will not be satisfied? So it is double loss. So can we begin to look at this from the perspective that, as I said earlier on, and I am happy that Reverend Araga raised it, okay, you are going to discuss with a Japanese delegation on transfer. How many Nigerians speak Japanese language that were in the entourage? I know that even as small as our own little organizations are, when we want to do international event or activity or international discussion with a country or foreign language, the number one thing we do is whether we are getting somebody from that place in our own team. Because, as I said, what is written on paper, interpretation may be completely reversed. So you need somebody to equally look at the demeanor and the unspoken language when you are doing those discussions. That guides. And of course, there are times that they are tete-a-tete. Okay? In which case, you will be there, the other team will be selling you, and you don't know, you'll be clapping for them. Because the English is a universal language, and the Nigerian team will go there with English language. They won't go there speaking Hausa, or speaking Yoruba, or speaking Igbo, or speaking Ijaw, or Bini. Okay? So, which means whatever they are saying, the other team gets everything that they are saying. But when the other team is speaking, they are at a loss. So, if we want to begin to discuss, and really know that we are being serious, I will think that even the MOU, what is the content of the MOU? What is the content? We should see the content and know that the MOU have specified that, well, Japanese is good in these technological issues. They want to come and build their facility here. And they will use Nigerians from beginning scratch, from the development of the project till the end, so that they will understand how it happens. As he pointed out, there is nothing, anybody that is telling you about technological transfer is deceiving himself or herself. Because there is nothing like that. Technology can only be acquired It can only be bought and it can equally be stolen.
Not be transferred.
Nobody transfer it to you free of charge. It doesn't happen anywhere.
I'll come back to you, Barrister Chima Williams. Now, Reverend, what is on the ground now? They talked about it during the Ticad meeting. Watch your borrowing habit. Was this meeting, for this instance, called for African leaders to come to Yokohama, Japan, because of the fear of Chinese or the Chinese taking over Africa?
Well, that may not be ruled out because every nation wants to have an impact somewhere else. Because, you see, they are looking at Africa as a raw material resource base that these developed countries need. They don't have the raw materials, but they have the money. And he who pays the piper dictates the tune. China has, with its population, has two things in mind. One, where to give employment to its citizens, and two, where to feed the high industry for the benefit of Chinese. So that's why when the Chinese give you loan, they flood you with their citizens. It's part of them. So they indirectly are reinvesting the money in their citizens. The knowledge is not transferred because they're not giving you the best of the brains. They bring the low economic people of the society to you to adore you and make them as if they are gods in their place. And yet they are not. So we are not really getting the best out of the thing. That's why we're talking about Chinese products are being inferior. That's some of the things. So the Japanese have a different approach on its own because they have come from a very disturbing background to where they are. They have understandings. But they also have a problem because they don't also have raw materials, especially when the Chernobyl issue happened, those disasters. Yeah. They need a lot of raw materials.
Yeah, Fukushima and the rest of them.
So they need to rebuild themselves. And Africa has all the minerals, all the mineral resources it takes to do it. America is on one side. Britain is on one side. Iran is on one side too. Then you have the Russians. So there's a scramble. But unfortunately for America, Britain, and Europe, they don't have as much liquidity as the Asians have. And so Asian is trying to use, and you know, Africans love money, so this is the issue. You give him money, he can sell anything to you without undermining. But look at the debt we are just talking about, 9-point-something billion. Because of individuals who have no knowledge and yet put us into a contract that nobody can interpret. Yeah. Now, it's as if ghosts signed the contract. No human being is taking responsibility of signing the contract now. And that's what has been happening over the years. That's why you find that anytime a new government comes, they try to cancel the first contract and they inflate it to get there. So, and nothing is done. So we need to, until we become sincere with ourselves. The Chinese were sincere with themselves in development. They went to America, they went to Europe, and acquired the technology to build. And today, America is owing them. America owes Chinese trillions because everybody are talking about stolen properties, intellectual properties. How are they doing it? All that Africa is known for now is fraud. If we use those technology, if we can use the technology and the mind that they use in stealing to develop, we should be more advanced than anything. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how we also, our politicians, what is the character formation of our political elite? Because that's where it comes. If you don't have character, you can't do anything. You are thinking of how to get, because every politician in Africa is thinking of how to amass wealth for himself and the family is not even sure of getting. You know, and they're not concerned about the citizens that they're supposed to be representing. Of course, most of the elections are stolen. So you have a rough background. And when a man is not happy, he doesn't have a solid background of his own, you can't build something on nothing.
You can't build something on nothing.
When you have leaders that are not intellectually sound and don't have what it takes to do negotiation. Negotiation is not just talking. It's a lot of diplomacy. Anytime you hear the American president visiting Nigeria, weeks or months before he comes, there are people on ground.
All right.
Nosing and sniffing every information. So the man talks with the information he has. Our leaders in Africa go to conference, nobody goes before. So they have nothing to talk about.
Wow.
So they come back with empty hand and they feel, oh, we have an MOU. And so what? We have promises. And that's why Nigerians and Africans make promises of things they cannot fulfill.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, we have this problem. So look at every sector of the economy and find out whether what we have said we are going to do has helped us. If not, why don't we change our strategy and allow those who have knowledge? We may not even take Nigerians who are here. We have Nigerians abroad.
All right.
In these countries who knows the things, whom you can easily and say, come, let's help us to do this thing. But pride of the African leader will not allow him to talk to his citizens who have knowledge of what it takes to give him a good deal.
Thank you so much, Reverend. That's going to be your last line on this show because of time. Alex, you're going to have your last bite on this. You keep saying that indirectly we are not ready for this. The meeting, according to some persons, may just be a jamboree after all because we will not gain anything from it. Even if we gain, we'll misuse it. How do you feel about those comments?
I think sometimes it's not very advisable for us to jump into conclusions. We can only assume that the committees, that there were no technocrats and all that. For example, the Minister for Foreign Affairs is a complete gentleman, someone who is well versed in issues. I would also think that
Do you speak Japanese?
You would have,
it's just a question.
Yes, you would have people. You know, there's an embassy, Nigerian embassy in Japan, and of course, you would have people there. There are Nigerians there who can speak the language.
All right.
So it's a matter of they be used effectively to interpret these things. That's a big question.
Thank you so much, Alex. Barrister Chima Williams, your last line.
Well, every process for me is a learning process. That we've not gotten anything out of the previous does not mean that we will not get something out of the present. My only concern is that the day we will change is the day we begin to know that solutions to all our problems are in our own hands. We don't need any external person to teach us how to solve our own problems. Because that person did not create that problem for us. So such a person may not know the genesis of our problem. If you don't know where the rain started beating you, you won't equally understand where it stopped beating you. So everything will be business as usual until we decide as Nigerians that we can solve our problems and we can export development to other nations.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. This is an abridged version. We have so much to do in the studio. Well, you've heard them. Different folks, different strokes, different opinions about the just concluded Ticad meeting, the 7th edition, whose benefit, a huge question still begging for answer. Is it to benefit the Japanese or to benefit Africans? What about the money given to us previously? What have we used it for? Is that a meeting, a jamboree of some sort, or it's like an inferior meeting? After all, G7 was going on. Shinzo Abe wasn't there, but African leaders, they all moved down to Japan. What can you really make out of this? Well, see you tomorrow on International Forum. Bye for now.